England-Argentina in France 1998 was sizzling hotter than a Buenos Aires barbecue. And when Argentina's Diego Simeone attempted a one-man spit roast on David Beckham, he responded in the way that any self-respecting bleach blonde midfielder should, with a girly flick of his leg.
I couldn't see what had happened, you know, and I can see Simeone falling over, but then, like, really play acting. I was thinking, oh, just get up, will you?
Despite the kick being about as vicious as a loved-up butterfly, the ref saw it as violent conduct and sent Beckham off.
And a red card for David Beckham.
Yeah, it was a bit stupid and a bit crazy, straight in front of the ref, but let's face it, he didn't actually do anything to him.
It was a petulant little flick, and it certainly, I don't think it should have been a sending off.
When I saw it on TV, I was like, he got a straight red for that.
Simeone had pulled out the oldest trick in the book of old tricks, and Beckham fell for it. Wind him up with a nasty dig, wait for him to react, and then put on a frankly ridiculous show for the ref.
It was interesting, it happened 2-3 minutes into the second half, and you wonder if the team took at half-time from the Argentinians was get into him, you know, because he's starting to dictate the pace of the game.
The night just got worse for Beckham and England. They lost the match, and there was only one person to blame.
But a mad moment by David Beckham probably cost you the game at the end of the day.
It's cost us dearly.
I was really disappointed in him. You selfish, you idiot, you kid.
If he didn't do that, I reckon we would have gone through.
The David Beckham effigy was literally the worst effigy I have ever seen. And I'm not an expert on effigies, I've never made an effigy. It was like a crash test dummy with a David Beckham shirt on it and a sarong. Didn't even put on like a little wig or those pants that he wears. If you're gonna make an effigy and you're gonna threaten a man's life, at least have the decency to go out and get the required materials and put in the time and the effort to render an effigy that looks like the guy you're threatening. Because that was...
As for Beckham, well, we didn't hear much more from him. If the World Cup proves one thing, it's that anything is possible. The only thing to expect is the unexpected. On the greatest stage of all, villains can become heroes and heroes can turn to villains.
It's time for number one, the most shocking World Cup moment of all.
It was the evening of July the 9th, 2006. The air seemed charged with the promise of seismic electric passion. No, nothing to do with Sven and Ulrika. This was the World Cup final between France and Italy, and 715 million jaws around the world were about to simultaneously hit the floor.
I remember watching that with my mates and honestly turning to each other, we could not believe that had just happened.
I must admit, my heart dropped. It was just a pub I was into, utter silence. No one knew what to say. You were like, wow.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, yeah, you can't believe actually happened, but did.
The match was the grand stage for Zinedine Zidane, one of the greatest footballers ever, to take his final bow.
The stage was set for the great man to make a great exit, and it didn't quite end like that.
Zidane scored an audacious penalty. And then, with the scores level at 1-1, came a moment so shocking, the powers that be won't even let us show it.
You can't excuse that. Zidane's career ends in disgrace.
He's just lost it for no discernible reason and in front of so many people, and just nutted him.
I found it absolutely unbelievable that such a career that involved so much elegance and art should end with the kind of thing that someone might do in a pub after 10 pints of lager.
The planet reeled in shock, and then began a giant game of Chinese whispers.
He must have said something horrendous, you know, just out of order, inexcusable, to provoke that reaction.
I knew they'd said something really horrible because Zidane's face changed, and it could have only been something to do with his family.
The other story is that there was a rumour about Zidane and some unpleasant personal business that had taken place in Turin when he was at Juventus, and that Marcello Lippi, who was manager of Juventus at the time, said to Materazzi, mention this to Zidane and just see what the reaction would be. And we did see the reaction.
In his farewell game from the sport, on the biggest stage of all, Zidane had capitulated. Italy won the World Cup on penalties, but the match will always be remembered for a moment of madness.
I don't feel sorry for Zidane, and I don't feel sorry for the French, because that won us the World Cup.
But there was one final sad, shocking and epic moment as Zidane did the ultimate walk of shame.
That vision of Zidane walking past the World Cup trophy as he exited the pitch is iconic now.
The best player in the world at the time walking past the World Cup that he should have won but has just thrown away because he's nutted a guy is a very arresting and powerful image.
But it's over now.
Cheerio then. So that's it. Up until now, those are the greatest shocks of the World Cup.
And there'll be more soon.
Another tournament's worth of drama and glory and dreams, and maybe this time...
Richard, stop. Don't say it.
But Peter, would it really be such a shock if we could...
Shh.